This happened in late 2022, when I went on what I thought would be a fun, simple first date with someone I'd matched with on a dating app. Her name was Emily. We had been texting for about 2 weeks before we finally made plans to meet. We both shared a love for horror movies, and when Smile came out, we agreed it would be the perfect first date. We picked a late showing 10:15 p.m. on a Thursday night at a small, older theater just outside of town. I offered to drive and picked her up around 9:30. Emily seemed normal friendly, maybe a little shy. She was quiet at first, but she opened up once we started talking about the horror movies we grew up watching. By the time we pulled into the nearly empty parking lot, we were laughing and joking. I made a comment about how the place looked like something straight out of a horror film. Dim lights, flickering neon, and not a single person in the lobby. There was only one guy working concessions. I asked if it was going to be a full theater, and he laughed. "You two are the only ones who bought tickets for this showing," he said. At first, I thought that was awesome. No crowd, just the two of us and the movie. We went into Theater 6 and picked seats right in the center, about 4 rows from the back. It was freezing inside, which Emily pointed out right away. I offered her my hoodie, and we laughed about how eerie the empty theater felt. We sat and talked while the previews played, and honestly, I was feeling pretty good about the date. Then, just as the last trailer ended and the lights dimmed even further, I noticed movement in the corner of my eye. Someone walked in. They didn't look around, didn't check their phone or glance at seat numbers like most people do. They just walked in slowly, straight up the steps. San sat directly behind us. Like, right behind us. There were over 100 empty seats in that room, and he chose the one immediately behind me. Emily turned to look at him, then glanced at me with this confused, slightly creeped out expression. I gave a small chuckle and mumbled figures. But deep down, I was instantly uneasy. You know that feeling when someone's staring at you? Like you can feel it. That's what it was. I glanced back a minute later. He wasn't watching the screen. He was watching us. His eyes didn't shift. He didn't even blink. He was leaning forward a little, like someone really into a scene-X. His head wasn't turned toward the movie. It was angled directly at us. At me. I whispered to Emily, "He's just staring." She nodded. I know we tried to ignore it and focus on the movie. But every few minutes, I'd feel it again, that intense, unblinking gaze. I casually turned to glance back again. He was still staring, middle-aged, maybe late 40s, clean-shaven, pale, in a dark gray hoodie. But there was something off about his face. It looked vacant, like no one was home. And his eyes didn't move, didn't blink. I leaned toward Emily and whispered, "This guy is really creeping me out." She looked nervous now. "Do you want to move?" We thought about it. But where would we go? We were already in the best seats. Moving would mean putting ourselves closer to the screen, or even worse, provoking him. A few minutes later, I felt it. He breathed on me. It wasn't loud or obvious, just a soft, deep exhale, way too close. I spun around, and he was leaning forward over the back of my seat, his face just inches away. I locked eyes with him and said, "Dude, can you not?" He didn't say a word. He just slowly leaned back into his seat. That was it. I looked at Emily and said, "Let's move." We picked up our stuff and relocated to the front corner row. The view sucked, but at least we put some distance between us. Still, I couldn't relax. I kept glancing back, and every time I did, he was still staring at us, still in the same seat, still motionless. Then, about halfway through the movie, we heard footsteps. Slow ones, coming down the steps. Emily grabbed my arm. We didn't move. The footsteps stopped a few rows behind us. Neither of us turned around. We just sat there, frozen. Eventually, he went back to the top row. I whispered, "We need to leave." She nodded. We grabbed our things and slipped quietly out of the theater. As we walked down the hallway toward the lobby, I glanced back through the theater door's glass window. He was standing in the aisle. not watching the screen, just standing there, still staring at us. We went straight to the concession counter and told the guy there someone in Theater 6 was acting really weird. His expression changed immediately. "Again," he said. I blinked. "What do you mean? Again?" He looked uncomfortable. "He's been coming in randomly for like a month. Always the late shows. Never buys anything. You guys aren't the first to complain. Why hasn't anyone kicked him out?" I asked. He sighed. "Management says unless he does something illegal or breaks a rule, there's nothing we can really do." Emily was nearly in tears. She asked if someone could walk us to our car. The guy agreed, and a janitor escorted us out. Thankfully, the man didn't follow us, at least not that we saw. But the entire ride home, I was paranoid. What if he got my license plate? What if he followed us from a distance? What if he watched where I dropped Emily off? For weeks after that, I kept looking over my shoulder. My friend, who's a cop, told me that what the theater staff said was total nonsense. He said the business has every right to remove someone like that for making customers feel unsafe. I avoided that part of town for a long time. Emily and I texted a bit afterward, but we never met up again. I think we were both too shaken. I've never gone back to that theater since. I haven't seen any reviews or reports online about that man. But I wonder, how many other people has he sat behind in the dark?